My beloved child, before your mind races ahead, become completely still for just this moment, because what you are about to hear did not begin today. It began long before you noticed the signs, long before the unexpected emotions, and long before two unseen paths quietly started moving toward one another. There is something your future spouse has recently come to understand about you, and ever since that realization settled into their heart, your presence has refused to leave their thoughts. They don't fully understand why your name echoes through quiet moments they cannot explain. They only know that something feels different now, deeply different. Stay a little longer, because every passing moment uncovers another piece of a picture that has been hidden until now. Imagine discovering someone without ever standing face to face with them. Strange, isn't it? Yet life often introduces souls long before introductions happen. Sometimes it happens through a feeling. Sometimes through an unexpected conversation. Sometimes through a dream that seems too vivid to ignore. And sometimes, through a truth that quietly reaches the heart before the mind can question it. Your future spouse has encountered one of those moments. They uncovered something about your character that no appearance could reveal, something far beyond success, status, or popularity. They realized that you possess a quiet strength. A rare ability to remain genuine even when the world encourages people to become someone else. At first, they tried to dismiss the feeling. Why does this person keep crossing my mind? They wondered. Why does every ordinary day suddenly remind me of someone I haven't even met? The questions came without answers, yet the curiosity only grew stronger. Every attempt to move on somehow circled back to you. Every distraction eventually faded, leaving behind the same silent thought. Have you ever noticed how destiny rarely shouts? It whispers, and somehow those whispers become impossible to forget. But this story goes deeper than simple curiosity. Your future spouse has started recognizing patterns they never paid attention to before. They find themselves noticing qualities in other people that strangely remind them of the person they believe exists somewhere ahead of them. Every act of kindness they witness sparks another thought. Every honest conversation leaves them wondering if you speak with that same sincerity. Every challenge they overcome somehow strengthens the hope that one day they will meet someone who understands life the way they do. Without realizing it, they have begun measuring tomorrow against the possibility of you. Pause for a second and ask yourself something. What if the person meant for your future isn't searching for perfection? What if they're searching for authenticity? What if the one discovery that changed everything wasn't about your appearance, your achievements, or your possessions, but about the way your heart refuses to become cold despite everything you've experienced? That possibility changes everything. Because authenticity cannot be copied. It cannot be borrowed. And it certainly cannot be hidden forever. Somewhere ahead, your future spouse has started feeling drawn toward that invisible quality without even knowing its full source. It is like hearing a beautiful melody from another room. You cannot see where it comes from, yet something inside you naturally moves toward it. That is exactly how this unseen connection is unfolding. Still, the most surprising part hasn't happened yet. There was a moment, small enough that almost anyone else would have ignored it, when they heard a story about someone who quietly helped others without expecting recognition. The details were simple. The story wasn't dramatic. Yet something inside them paused. They couldn't explain why that ordinary act stayed in their thoughts for hours afterward. It wasn't because they knew it was connected to you. It was because the values behind that story matched the kind of person their heart had secretly hoped existed somewhere in the world. And ever since then, an invisible question has followed them. What if that person is real? What if we're moving toward each other right now without realizing it? Questions like these don't disappear easily. Instead, they grow. They become late-night reflections. Unexpected smiles. Quiet moments of hope. Little sparks that appear during completely ordinary days. The remarkable thing is that your future spouse isn't imagining a fantasy. They are responding to something genuine, something that reaches beyond coincidence. Deep within them, a quiet confidence has begun replacing uncertainty. They no longer believe meaningful connections happen by accident. They have started trusting that every experience, every delay, every lesson has been preparing both of you for a meeting that will happen at exactly the right moment. Before this chapter continues, remember one thing. The greatest connections are rarely built on dramatic first impressions. They are built on discoveries. Layer after layer. Truth after truth. Until two lives recognize something they have been searching for all along. And what your future spouse has already discovered about you is only the beginning. Wait until the next part, because the next realization they experience will make everything they've been feeling suddenly begin to make sense. Something unexpected is beginning to unfold now, not with loud announcements or impossible coincidences, but through quiet moments that your future spouse never anticipated. They believed they had complete control over their thoughts. They believed they could simply move forward with life, focusing on work, responsibilities, and ordinary routines. Yet every time they tried to settle into normality, one thought kept returning. Who is this person I keep feeling drawn toward? Stay with this story, because the answer is closer than either of you realize. It wasn't one dramatic event that changed everything. It was a series of tiny moments that slowly built an undeniable truth. One evening, while reflecting on everything they wanted in a lifelong partner, they noticed something surprising. The qualities they had written down months, or even years, before suddenly felt incredibly real, almost as if those qualities belonged to one specific person. They couldn't explain why. They simply felt that somewhere, someone already carried those characteristics naturally. The more they reflected, the more one realization stood out above all the others. They weren't searching for someone who would impress the world. They were searching for someone who would bring peace into their life. That single discovery changed the way they looked at the future. Instead of wondering who would make life exciting, they began wondering who would make life meaningful. Instead of chasing perfection, they found themselves hoping for honesty. Instead of imagining endless attention, they started valuing quiet loyalty. Without realizing it, they had already begun thinking about you, not your face, not your name, but the kind of heart they believed you carried. Now imagine this. What if every lesson they experienced was quietly removing the wrong expectations so they could recognize the right person when the time arrived? That thought stayed with them. And strangely enough, it refused to disappear. Even ordinary conversations started affecting them differently. Whenever someone mentioned genuine kindness, resilience, patience, or unwavering character, something inside them whispered, "That's the kind of person I've been waiting for." It became impossible to ignore. Their heart wasn't chasing excitement anymore. It was searching for something lasting. There were nights when they questioned themselves. Why do I feel so certain that someone I've never met already matters? No answer came immediately. Only peace. Sometimes silence speaks louder than explanations. Sometimes certainty arrives before evidence. And sometimes destiny plants confidence inside the heart long before the eyes can confirm it. You may not realize it today, but your future spouse has started making quiet decisions based on the hope of meeting someone exactly like you. They have become more patient with life, more careful with their choices, more intentional about the people they allow into their circle. Why? Because deep inside, they no longer want temporary connections to distract them from something meaningful. Think about that for a moment. Someone you've never met is unknowingly preparing space for your arrival. Not because they know your identity, but because they've discovered the kind of person they truly want beside them. That discovery has become impossible to forget. Before this story moves any further, let me gently ask you something. Have you ever wondered why certain seasons of life feel slower than expected? What if those seasons aren't delays at all? What if they're preparation? Preparation shapes people in ways that success alone never could. Your future spouse is beginning to understand this. Every challenge they overcame has softened their heart instead of hardening it. Every unanswered question has taught them patience. Every disappointment has refined their expectations until only what truly matters remains. And here's the remarkable part. Without knowing your name, they have already become grateful for the person they believe is coming into their life someday. That gratitude changes everything. Because people who live with gratitude notice hope where others only see waiting. As this chapter comes to a close, one final thought remains. The discovery that first captured their attention was only the doorway. What they uncover next will reach far deeper than admiration. It will convince them that your paths were never random to begin with. Before we continue, if this story has made you pause and reflect, consider sharing your thoughts in the comments, and if these journeys speak to your heart, subscribing simply helps you continue discovering them together. But don't leave yet. The next chapter reveals the quiet sign that finally makes your future spouse stop questioning their feelings, and start trusting them. A quiet shift is happening now. One so subtle that almost no one around your future spouse can see it, yet it is transforming the way they look at tomorrow. There comes a moment in every meaningful journey when curiosity becomes certainty. They have not reached the destination yet, but they have begun walking toward it with a confidence they never possessed before. And the reason is astonishingly simple. The more they learn about the kind of person you are, the harder it becomes to imagine a future that does not somehow include you. Stay until the final moments of this chapter, because one realization changes the entire direction of their heart. Not long ago, they believed that timing controlled everything. Now they are beginning to believe that preparation matters even more. Every challenge they once questioned suddenly appears to have a purpose. Every season of waiting feels less like time being lost and more like time being invested. They no longer ask, "Why hasn't it happened yet?" Instead, they quietly wonder, "What am I still learning before I meet the person I've been preparing for?" That single change in perspective has brought them a peace they never expected. Then something even more remarkable begins to happen. Without forcing it, they start becoming the kind of person they hope to meet. They choose patience over frustration, understanding over judgment, consistency over temporary excitement. Not because anyone asked them to, but because deep inside they sense that real love begins long before two people shake hands for the first time. Think about that. The future is already shaping both of you at the same time. While you are growing through your own experiences, your future spouse is quietly growing through theirs. Different places, different stories, different days. Yet somehow the lessons seem to complement each other like two pieces of a puzzle being carefully formed before they are ever placed together. There are evenings when they simply sit in silence, reflecting on the life they hope to build one day. Surprisingly, those reflections no longer focus on material things. Instead, they picture peaceful conversations, shared laughter after difficult days, encouragement during uncertain moments, and someone whose presence feels like home rather than pressure. And every time they imagine that future, one thought gently returns. I believe that person already exists. That belief has become impossible to ignore. What they discovered about you was never just one detail. It became a mirror. A reminder that genuine character still exists. That authenticity still matters. That kindness is still powerful. And because of that realization, they cannot stop thinking about the person they hope will one day walk beside them. Here's something most people never realize. The strongest connections are rarely built from constant excitement. They are built from quiet trust. The feeling that someone understands your heart without asking you to become someone else. Your future spouse has started longing for exactly that kind of connection. Not because they are lonely. Not because they are searching desperately. But because they have discovered that a meaningful future is worth waiting for. Before this chapter ends, let this thought settle gently in your mind. What if every experience you've had, every unexpected turn, every lesson, every delay, has been preparing you for someone who is also preparing for you? What if neither of you has arrived too early? Or too late? But exactly when your stories are ready to meet? That possibility fills them with hope. And hope has a remarkable way of changing how people live each day. So they continue moving forward, carrying a quiet expectation that somewhere ahead, two paths that have been developing separately will finally become one. The next chapter reveals the moment that makes your future spouse stop wondering whether your meeting is possible, and start believing that it may happen much sooner than they ever imagined. And when that realization arrives, everything they thought they understood about destiny will begin to change. Before another ordinary day slips away, something remarkable begins to take shape, not through coincidence, but through a sequence of moments that feel almost designed to awaken the heart. Your future spouse has reached a point where the questions are becoming fewer, while the quiet certainty within them continues to grow. They no longer see the future as an empty space waiting to be filled. Instead, they feel as though someone is already walking toward them from the other side of time. Wait just a little longer, because this chapter reveals why that feeling refuses to fade. There are days when everything appears completely normal on the outside. Work continues. Conversations come and go. Life moves at its usual pace. Yet beneath that routine, something has changed forever. Your future spouse catches themselves smiling without knowing exactly why. A simple melody, an inspiring story, or an unexpected act of kindness suddenly reminds them that somewhere, there is a person whose heart reflects those same qualities. They cannot explain why these moments affect them so deeply. They only know that each one strengthens a quiet belief they never had before. Then another realization arrives. They stop asking life to hurry. Instead, they begin preparing themselves to recognize the right person when the moment finally comes. That preparation changes everything. Rather than chasing endless distractions, they become more intentional with their time. They begin protecting their peace, investing in personal growth, and choosing relationships that encourage honesty instead of confusion. Every small decision feels like another step toward a future they can almost sense but cannot yet see. Now imagine this. What if, at this very moment, both of you are learning lessons that will one day become the reason your conversations feel effortless? What if every challenge has been quietly teaching you the patience, wisdom, and compassion that your future relationship will need? That thought gives them hope. Not temporary excitement. Real hope. The kind that remains steady even when nothing dramatic seems to be happening. One evening, while reflecting on everything life had taught them, they reached a simple conclusion. The person I'm waiting for isn't meant to complete me. They're meant to walk beside me. That single sentence stayed with them. It became the foundation of every decision that followed. And somehow, every time they pictured that future companion, they felt the same calm confidence returning. Not because they knew your name, but because they trusted that genuine character always finds its way into the lives of those who value it. If this journey has spoken to your heart so far, consider sharing your thoughts in the comments. And if you enjoy stories that explore hope, destiny, and meaningful connections, subscribing is simply a way to continue this journey together. But the story doesn't end here. One final discovery is waiting. A discovery that transforms quiet hope into unmistakable confidence. It is the moment when your future spouse realizes that the qualities they have been searching for are no longer just an idea. They believe those qualities belong to a real person whose path is gradually moving closer to theirs. They stop wondering whether such a connection exists. They begin wondering how extraordinary the meeting will feel when it finally happens. And that single shift changes the way they greet each new day. Because expectation replaces uncertainty. Gratitude replaces impatience. And peace quietly takes the place of fear. The final chapter is where everything comes together. The unanswered questions. The silent preparation. The growing certainty. The reason your future spouse simply cannot stop thinking about you after discovering the truth of who you are. When that final piece is revealed, the entire journey will make sense in a way neither of you could have imagined.